this is, I kid you not, this is one of the ones that I've been wanting to do for the longest time, because I've been telling so many people about the work that we've done together. And I think now giving literally a face and a voice to what you're doing is, I believe, is going to inspire a lot of people. So
We
very
hope
nice to
so.
have you.
That's our intention.
I think
Yes.
so. I think so. Yeah, I think so. So yeah, we're gonna unpack everything. Of course, we're not gonna do. We talked about this before as well. We're not gonna be doing some kind of live therapy session, any of that on here. We're gonna
No.
reference things that I've worked on, but not like the specific examples. But yeah, so why don't you start? Introduce yourself. Who you are, what do you do, and maybe also in particular, what's the specific style that you're actually following as a therapist.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so my name is Mar. Actually, my name is Maria. It's a Portuguese name. I'm from Portugal, but it's a nickname because everyone is Maria in Portugal. So I think it was a way to be a little bit different, maybe, or individual. Um, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I study cognitive behavioral therapy as a base. But since very, very early, I thought it was too much. How can I say, rigid way to work with people. I think people are more complex. But I know it was the good foundation because the studies more powerful are from this therapy. And in my opinion, this therapy has all the good things about other therapies. So they were intelligent to build something that has a little bit of everything that we worked before in life. So I think it's a good foundation. But then I was more looking for different ways to work. I start with myself because I think is the best way to try something. And I found something that I was not aware, that is body therapy. The name is says working with the body. Now is something very woohoo famous, but I start 18 years ago with that. Of course, was inspired on some colleagues from Brazil. I think Brazilians are very good in therapies. They are very on top of everything. And I did somatic experiencing training. Is very famous right now. But I was the first one doing in Portugal, and then I decided to start to organize these trainings. And it was a huge experience because our clients are therapists, or at least people who work with people. So I had a lot of experience by seeing teachers, by seeing students, by supporting process. So that was a good school. And then I found another ways to work, non-verbal ways. And then I started to find another therapies, and I found one that I'm really, really fan. That is Bodynamic, and it's from Denmark. It was created by a lady in Denmark, very EP one. I love her, and she was very, very intelligent. By let's observe people instead of making assumptions or theories. Let's observe. So she observes some grown-ups through the body a lot, and then she observed kids, and she built this method that I think is a very good way to analyze people and to work with people. So then I combine all of this, and of course my life experience all together. But I think it's very concrete therapy, and I think the problems are in our concrete life, is not in our ideas. So whatever idea we have, the life is asking us some concrete action. So we need to work with concrete life. The problems are in the concrete level. So the problem of being concrete sometimes is too much confrontative, and people don't like to go direct to the focus of the concrete. And then we have some coach. Coach is oriented to the concrete also, but I think it's something in between. Not too much concrete, not too much philosophical, is something in between. And then that's it. So I start to work with these coordinations of trainings, and then giving private sessions, and then I start to teach, and now I'm kind of teaching more than anything, because I realize some colleagues, they don't know how to work with people as I think they should work. So I think I need to focus and teach and coach these professional people in order to do something that I think is useful for people.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
actually,
you're going
my
everywhere now, right? You're going everywhere now,
not everywhere. Actually,
almost.
I'm letting go one to one. Unfortunately, so I'm more doing trainings. But yeah, I will try to keep one to one to be with the feet on the ground, because when we teach too much, I see a lot of teachers losing themselves in teaching. You
Okay.
know this phrase, when you don't know what to do, you teach. You need to be careful, because if you start to be very uh, theoretical about something, if you don't practice, you lose the power. So I would like to keep some clients also.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. It's kind of the same for salespeople, actually. If you think about it, there's a lot of people now just talking about how to do it, and then they haven't done it for like 10 years, and
Uh
they
huh.
completely lose touch, and they kind of start recycling themselves. So I think it's the same here. I think that the interesting thing is that initially I did not, before I knew you even, I did not actually want to do therapy. When someone said, you should talk to Marlene,
Mm-hmm.
because the way I thought of therapy, and I had done it before, was I had done psychotherapy, I had done energy coaching, and all different kinds of things, and I kind of felt like that was not the right thing. But then, of course, I'm so happy that I met you 3 years ago almost, and we've been working together ever since. And I think one of the best things is actually that you said this yourself. It's gotten less, obviously, the last few weeks and months, and I think that that's sort of a result of like also a growing independence from my side, I would say. So I'd be curious to get your take before we dive into a lot of the things we have worked on together, specific concepts of yours. What would you say to those people who are saying, well, therapy, that's like for weak people? Andrew Tate he said, it's kind of like a crutch. It's you don't need it. Depression doesn't exist. And where would you say you would make the case for therapy and what you're doing, obviously, and where do you say he might even be, a little bit right about this to some extent?
I think when people say therapy is for weak people, in some point they are right. In which way? You need to recognize you need some help. So we can use another words to say the same thing, to not be so negative, like weakness. But I think it's best for us to face and meet people when they feel weak. So the therapy is kind of another person with another perspective to help you to find something. And in that place, it looks like I'm weak because I cannot do it by myself. So in some point, I agree with that sentiment. I think if you feel like that, you should not go to therapy because you are not ready yet. Because I think you need to be very strong to sit with someone and say, you know what, here there's something wrong. I need some help. So you need to be very strong to be in that place. And so um, you need to recognize some weakness on you. Yes. So I will not say it's for weak people. I think it's for strong people.
Hmm.
But I understand why people feel like that. So I think what people is trying to say, I'm not ready to be vulnerable, to go to that place. So that's okay. People need their time to come. Another thing is sometimes people cannot be people are so different, and it's hard to find someone professional that can see really you as you need. So sometimes you need to waste a lot of time, and unfortunately there's a lot of colleagues that we have a basic in our psychology school that it says you should create some alliance with your clients, some empathy with your clients. So a lot of therapists in the beginning, they come with this intention, let's keep a good connection. So they tend to be nice, they tend to give validation, but some people, the validation is comfortable, but validation don't change anything. you know it's it's very rare the case of the person healed with validation. So validation is a good starting point, but it's not really to change you or to move something in your life. It's just for you to feel seen and understand from some professional. And everyone in school is taught first. than anything, you should validate your client. And then it takes maybe a year to do that, and then the person is 1 year, nothing is changing.
Mm.
So I think that's why there's this, I can talk with a friend to have validation, I can do by myself, so I understand. The other part is I have to admit I have an issue, and I have to ask a stranger to help me here. And of course, I know changing is painful. It's painful, and you have to work. And sometimes we are so overwhelmed with so many other things in our life. Is more one thing. I think human beings, they like to change only in the worst case scenario, especially men, if I can say like that.
Please, I mean,
It's like, okay, I can fix it. I will find a way. I will not think about it or talk about it. If it's not an issue, why I'm going to put the finger on it? So sometimes they need to go to certain limit to say, okay, now is the time to ask for help. So I'm not saying it's wrong, but this is what I see in my practice. Women are a little bit more, they believe a lot in talking. So women like to talk. So even if therapy is not changing you, at least you have someone to talk. This is positive. So that's my opinion, actually. I don't know if I answer your question.
no, no, I think you did. I mean, again, I think the
Yeah,
interesting thing about you is that I felt you are a little bit unconventional in your style. Like, I think the reason why I also like working with you, because I feel at the center, I feel like I can be me. It doesn't have this formal thing where I have to lay down on a couch and kind of how people
yes,
think of it with, Sigmund Freud and how that works. So, because I've tried
yes,
that before, and that was so, I didn't go anywhere. It took me, I did a few, I don't know, like 20 sessions or something. It was a complete waste of
yes,
time when I really needed it back then. When I was with you, I didn't even feel that I urgently needed that. But then when I met you, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And I could sense, my brother made a post a couple of days ago on LinkedIn about all the recreational substances he's taken in his life. And he was saying, even though I've taken all of these, nothing has been as effective as doing Vipassana meditation. And I was going
uh-huh.
to make a post like that one day where I was going to say, like, same thing. Like, I've tried most of the things, as you know, and many that people don't even know. But I would say nothing has been as effective as working with you, like most of it. And this is true.
Yes.
I'm not trying to be nice here. This
No, no,
is really,
no,
really
no. I,
true.
I
And I
believe
can
on
see,
you.
yeah.
I believe on you. Actually, if I have to position myself in my occupation, I have to say I'm here to change. More and more in the beginning, I think I was shy, and Portugal. Sometimes your image gets stopped. I don't know if it's the internet.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I hope not. No.
No,
Okay.
sometimes your image gets like stopped a little bit. So I was saying, if I position myself in my profession, I will say authenticity is very what I want to be, and it is important that we walk what we talk. For me, that is a very important for me in therapy or in every hierarchy position, in a teacher, in a leader. If he says something but he practices something else, I really don't trust on that kind of guidance. I was lucky because in the school I was taught in Bodynamics, the teachers say that you should be very open with your clients, even with your private life and examples. And your attitude, it will be a role model for your clients. If you go to conventional therapy, they say you should be secret with your life. Even don't be a friend of your client in social media, or talk anything about private. Don't have any pictures in your office about your life. And what is building, at least what I saw building on clients, was like, okay, my therapist has a perfect life and I don't, and I
Mm.
need to go to this direction. So, of course, this can inspire people or they can give authority to the therapist. But the other side of the coin is I feel down. I feel like I'm never going to achieve that place. So, that's my
Mm.
style. I understand my style is not comfortable for every people. I totally understand that. And I say that in my first interview with people, and I'm really focused in changing. Sometimes some clients say, "Oh, but I'm doing very good in some aspects," and I say, "Of course, but you have 1 hour. You are spending money. Do you need some praising or validation? We can keep a date just to recognize how good you are. That's important. But I'm focused in what you need help and to fix it." So this is very open and honest. So that's why sometimes we think, okay, I'm going to therapy is exciting, but it's painful because it's like I will go to school and then I have homework. That's one of our definitions of development trauma in Bodynamic is the lack of learning. So we believe that people are a little bit childish in the grown up because they didn't have the chance to learn to be grown ups. No one teach them basic things. So our job is like we a little bit teachers again to teach you something that you never learned. So I think it's a very positive way to see trauma and see, okay, I don't know, no one teach me, I didn't have a chance to learn. That's why some people can do and I cannot. Of course, meditation and some substance help people, and we study a little bit these different traumas. There are some traumas they are so early in our life before we came to this world and have a relationship with our caretakers, and sometimes it's so much in the body and it's so much in our soul that words are not enough to heal the person. So that's why some people need some extra help by meditation or some ayahuasca or other kind of drugs, because the trauma is really deep inside of the body. It's non-verbal, you know. But in my imagination, I think we should start from other traumas than the first of our life. The problem is when you have wounds in so early ages, there's a huge impact of purpose of life. And when you don't have a purpose of life, it's so hard to come to a therapist and say, help me here. Sometimes we don't know where we should start because our purpose of life is so lost. So this is more hard. This is more hard.
I think this was also one of the first things that you and I talked about at the very beginning, where you basically said, like, look, we have to, we cannot just, we have to lay a foundation here pretty much and kind of build you up in certain places. Could you talk a little bit about that? And also, I would say the word trauma these days, I feel like, how would you even define that? Because I feel like that's thrown around so many, everyone's using the word trauma, everything is trauma. But how do you actually, how do you define it yourself?
Okay, so the most there are two types that we need to separate because it helps to have different definitions. One is shock trauma, and shock trauma is some event that I used to say has a date or a day. It was a moment, and in this moment was so intense moment that you lost the ability to manage this situation. And it could be many things. Anything can be a trauma. It depends on your ability to fix it. So let's say, I don't know, you are 3 years old and you lost your mother in the shopping mall, and for 10 minutes you don't know where is your mother. And because you are 5 years old and you are in the shopping and you lost your mother and you scream, it was a trauma. It was enough. It was not a big deal. No one was going to die, but for you was a very huge thing. And it's impressive how much things can shock us. Simple things, big things. So this is the definition of shock trauma is something that is bigger than your ability to manage whatever, because it's too fast, too intense, too unexpected, or you are not so skilled. Let's say you live in the farm for all your life and you never saw whatever, a man with a beard. You never saw. Then you go to the city and a guy comes to you with a beard and say, hello, and then you get traumatized. It could be a stupid example, but it could be. So this person is 20 years old, but she got traumatized because she was not raised in a place where this type of people exist. So that's shock trauma. And the way we solve this shock trauma involves a lot of reactions that we are not so conscious. We react like a little bit like animals, if I can say like that. So we lose a little bit the consciousness and we react weird. And because you lost the consciousness, you lost a little bit your norms and values and what you are. For instance, I have an example of a client. She was in the plane and then it was an accident landing. So the wheel was not good. Nothing happens, but the wheel broke in the landing and was some smell of burning rubber. And people start to get panic. And because everyone was panic, even the pilot was saying everything is okay, because the plane gets like not balanced. This lady gets so shocked that she start to walk on top of everything, of everyone. So she start to crawl on top of everyone to run away. Then they opened the door and she left. And when she arrived outside, she was like half an hour shaking. And then everyone left, everyone was safe, and she was coming to herself again. And when she started to land in herself again, she was so ashamed that she was putting her hand in babies, in old people, in everyone. So she was saying, I was shocked with myself. I did some actions that I morally, I think they are so disgusting. So I'm disgusted with myself. I should not do that. So we have in shock trauma, the problem is you go out and you are not really you for a moment. You do things that you are impressed. So that's shock trauma. And we have a lot of shock traumas. I don't know anyone who never had a shock trauma. And we have once and another one. But most of us, if life goes on, this is there, but you will not activate this shock trauma only if you have some trigger that helps. For instance, there's a lot about abuse or this sexual abuse it could trigger, or some things related. But in the majority of the clients, what they have is what we call development trauma. And this is different. This is about your daily life with your caretakers. So the quality of the development trauma is something that has to happen every day in a very consistent way. So the message is always the same every day. So then you start to think, okay, life is like this. So it's not the same quality of a shock trauma. You are in your consciousness, but become life is like this, like this. So it's like you never learn to do differently. Yeah.
What would
For
be an
instance,
example? Yeah, exactly.
yeah. For instance, I can give an example, personal example. So I was living in a very chaotic, neglected family, and my mother she got pregnant when I was 20, and when she was 20 or 19, I think so. So she was very young. She was naive. She didn't know how to to deal with the child. But anyway, she did her best. So when I was more or less 3 years old, she got pregnant again after me, so I have 15 months difference from my sister. So she got very overwhelmed with everything, with the relationship with my father, with the life that she was having, taking care of my sister and me. So she starts to ask me a lot of help. So I was doing many things that are not supposed to be done in this age. And every time I was saying no to her, she was feeling like, or angry, yelling at me, like selfish, calling me selfish, or she start to cry and say, "Oh, my life is miserable, my life is horrible. I don't have anyone to help me." So I was raised in a place that the caretaker is someone that is overwhelmed and weak, and I have to help. So life is like that. So this was I didn't practice. I didn't learn to be selfish. I didn't learn so every time I was slightly thinking in me, small things like, say, I have a chocolate and I want to take this chocolate, right away comes this thought I should share this with people because they will feel I'm a horrible person. Even inside of my own brain, no one was telling me anything. So every time someone was helpless, I have this suffocating sensation I should do something in any context. So this was horrible. So I was this nice person, and then having this behavior as a child, this is for social life is not so healthy because kids don't like this kind of behavior because it's always the good person helping everyone. So I was not understanding why people were like using me when they need, but then they don't want to have fun with me because I was like a grown up, I was very serious. So this gave me a lot of consequences. Now is not the time to show all the consequences, but this is an example of development trauma. So I think the best positive way to define development trauma is something that you didn't have the chance to learn. You didn't have the chance. Something happens, so you need to catch back. So I look for people and think why they are selfish and they don't feel guilty. I want that. Why can they can do it and I cannot? So I can define trauma like this because it means that one is not your fault. Two is a learn of lacking, so it gives you hope that you can catch back this. So the problem is, how can you teach a person when she's a grown up? That's the hard part. So therapy, for those who are listening to me, is like going to school again. Do you want to go to school again? No one wants to go to school again. No one. Especially give power to a lady, sometimes younger than me, to give me some lessons about how should I feel, how should I react, how should I act. No one wants that. So yeah, that's my definition of development trauma. Then you have the combination of both. Then is Carnival in Rio de Janeiro is a mess. You will have both. I used to say it's cafe latte. You have coffee, you have latte, and then you have this cappuccino, amazing cappuccino with these two traumas.
And so, how do you actually, for those people that decide to go back to school because they realize, you know what, for some reason I cannot handle it anymore myself, or I should,
Mhm.
what you select there, they think about that they should work with someone like you. How do you then help them to learn this? For example, what you talked about, the selfishness, the healthy selfishness, I suppose, what you just talked about
Yeah,
there.
this is an example, but there's many variations.
The developmental
And
trauma that you talked about, like this, like to
Mhm.
unlearn a certain behavior that you were not supposed to have learned in the
Uh-huh.
first place.
So I think the first thing people should think is what is not working in my life right now. Instead of thinking what I felt in my childhood discomfortable, going to the story, because we have a tendency to get attached to our story. So I really don't recommend you get attached to your story because some traumas you can heal with your life is impressive because we have this stage between zero pregnancy, our pregnancy, let's say, and then until 12 is the first stage that you learn these development stages and you have development traumas. And then after 13s until more or less 20s, you have the chance to repair some traumas. So you can be saved by a nice coach, by a nice teacher, by a nice group of friends, by a nice relationship. So you can heal a lot of things in the teenager, or you can go worst.
Mhm.
So the teenager is the stage that is, I used to say, is like clay, but is soft before going to the oven. So you can modulate something in the teenager that was not working. That's why some teenagers, they are opposite of the childhood because they want to experiment the opposite. So I was very obedient when I was a child. When I became teenager, yeah, motherfucker, I will do whatever I want. But the problem is when you pendulate to the extremes, you don't learn anything. You just pendulate into extremes. And we found out in new studies that if you get pregnant, they call motherhood, you open again this space to change some trauma. development trauma.
Wow.
Is impressive because you are soft in these stages, let's say teenager and childhood, and then your clay go to the oven, and then you get rigid, and then becomes your personality. Life is like that. So then to go to therapy is asking to the therapist to put us in the oven again, or to put some water to the clay gets again soft, and this is so painful because in a way you are asking to be brave. In a way you ask to have a cries, teenager cries. No one wants to have that. But the first step is you need to find out, because some traumas you heal in this period, and life experience teach you a lot of things. What is right now in my life? I used to say, what takes you now from the maximum power? Why you are not feeling fulfilled in your, you think you have a standard, and why you are not there yet. So I would like to work with that. That's is the starting point. The person investigate what I'm not happy with. In my experience, 90% of the answers is relationships, intimate relationships. People are not happy with their relationships. And I'm doing some workshops, and I'm having a lot of fun with relationships, or coaching people with that, because relationships is like investing in a career. It's high work. You have to study, you have to investigate, you have to try, you have to practice until you find your perfect place to work and your income coming. You have to invest a lot. So relationships are not so different from other parts of our life. We should take some time to invest on ourselves and choose wisely where we put our investments to get the benefit after. So this is something that is difficult, I think, because literature and movies was showing that love happens. We have a fantasy that love is an experience that happens. Is not. Chemistry happens because we can almost love everyone. But love is not enough to make a relationship, so we need to work hard to make it happening. So then the second step, you go to therapy and you come with these requests to fix this. Then it's the job of the therapist to find out, if you get this result, where is the issue? What is the skill you didn't learn in order for you to get this result? That's the job of a good therapist, not the client job.
Mhm.
And then you need to sit together and take the first year of therapy just to investigating what is the problem, where is the problem comes, how it is the problem, what are the options to fix it, and what you can commit. So in a way, we call this therapeutical contract. But to build a good contract, we need to negotiate the clauses
Yeah, the clauses.
of the contract. We need to see, I'm seeing the same thing that you are seeing, because if I am seeing and you are not seeing, there are some clients that say, yeah, you are the therapist, do it. I don't want to know. That's not possible. So we need to see, okay, where I need to do it. And then the second step is start to do it. You remember in your sessions, there were some things that I even said, go in life and practice this. There are some things that we only achieve if we have the guts to practice. Because if we don't act, is always in our mind.
Mm-hmm.
Simple things, like for instance, one of the things I found out about myself, to manage my chaotic childhood, I was romanticizing the reality. Like, okay, this is not so bad as it looks. My father is amazing. My mother is okay. They are not crazy. They know what they are doing. So I was romanticizing all the time. So I'm a very romantic person in the personality way. Now I'm not so much, but I was romanticizing everything. So one of the things that we have in this stage when we learn to romanticize is between 3 years old to 6 years old. When we see Cinderella, when we see the prince married with the princess, when everything will be okay, when I go to Disney tomorrow. So kids, they have this, and parents help to build this, like, grandmother die, where is grandmother? Is in the sky, and we think, yeah, she will come on Christmas in the sky and I will fly to the sky. We have that as kids because parents don't want to say the ugly things, like mommy and daddy don't have money, so they just say, no, everything is okay. So I found out I was very romantic, and one of the consequences to be romantic is, uh, I flirt without knowing I'm flirting with everyone, not men, women. I go to the mail station and I, hello, how are you? Very nice. And I didn't know that for some people, yeah, if I am so nice or so giving signs, I'm suggesting something.
Mhm.
So this was shocking for me to admit that I was doing that, because I was having some issues in relationships because I was so romantic. I was not choosing the proper uh, partner, because if he says, I want to marry with you or I love you, I was believing because I'm so romantic. If he says, it's because it's truth. So my therapist was saying, we need to fix that. We need to teach you that sometimes people say something, but it's not really true. And I say, oh, people lie. This was shocking for me. People lie. I know they lie, but they cannot lie from this. So one of the tasks she gave me was, now you go in the streets and you will flirt consciously. And I said, what? No, I cannot do that. Yes, you will. You will do that. You flirt with animals, with everyone, with men, with women. Flirt like looking and say, huh, and knowing that you are giving a sign of connection. This was so painful. I felt so horrible to do this. It looks like I was evading people, I was abusing people. But the problem was, I was not aware. So this was a specific task my therapist gave me, a very concrete. So in my case, my clients, if they found something they never learned, they need to go in life and they need to practice something they never learned. And I have to say, this is exciting, but is difficult. I
How?
think we
Sorry.
can do that 2-3 times, and it's more than enough for the person learn.
How is it different from what there's obviously also the exposure therapy, right? Where some people say basically similar to what you just talked about, but you almost force yourself. And I know that you also say there has to be a healthy balance where, because if you're not ready for it, then it actually it's counterproductive. So what's the difference there?
Yeah. Exposed therapy is a little bit different, because let's say I come to you and say, I am afraid to flirt. And then she said to me, now you're going to flirt. This is an example that I'm saying I was totally not knowing and unconscious of what I was doing. And she was giving me consciousness. Is a little bit of different from exposure therapy. Exposure therapy we can use even in our cognitive behavioral approach. This systematic desensitization is when the person is afraid of something and we ask the person to do the opposite. That's not the same I was explaining. This was an example that sometimes I have to practice. For instance, and then I will answer more to your questions. For instance, there are some people, they have a trauma. It's around 8 months to 18 months. Is the time of the baby. Expect the mother gets that the baby has some needs. We call this need stage. So the baby don't talk and is crying, and he hopes the mother gets that I'm starving and gives me some milk, or my diaper is wet and give me some, change my diaper. So it's the age when you practice bonding in a way that your mother gets what you want. People with trauma in this stage, they are grown-ups that they expect people guess what they want. So they are not specific, but inside they really think it's obvious, especially women. There's a lot of women with this trauma. I think because mothers take care more of boys than women with
Really?
girls.
Why?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's the opposite sex, and the mothers feel boys more vulnerable than girls, and it looks like they are they are more positive transference with boys. So if you look in many cultures, they were not pushing the boy so much as they push the girl, because they have the negative transference, because it's my own sex. When it's my opposite sex, some mothers even say he looks my prince, is my real love. So there's a slightly projection of a masculine figure with the mother. Freud was talking about this in a very nasty way, but I have to admit it works a little bit. So fathers tend to treat girls as princesses, and they boys, and mothers tends to be overprotected with boys instead of with girls. It happens. So this is an example. The person really feels that a true love person, if you true love me, you are so capable to guess what I need without me talking. So if you are with me with 6 months in a relationship, of course you have to guess what is my favorite restaurant, because one day I told you. So they really are grown-ups, feeling that the others can understand me or see me or guessing what I need. And there's a lot of fights because of this, because they think this really obvious. So if I found this with this client, first, the person needs to admit this is an obstacle to her relationships, the contract. Then she needs to be ready to change that. So one of the things I will say is, after we do a preparation in our office about that, I will say, now I want you to practice, to be specific in what you need with the colleague in your office. I will not ask directly to do that with the partner, because maybe it's too much. But you can start to practice to say exactly what you want to your friend, for instance. So this is different from exposure therapy. This is the way of teaching. Because I was saying development trauma is something that you didn't learn. So how come I can teach you now and you don't practice? You have to practice. So it's slightly different from exposure therapy.
Right.
Yeah? It's a little bit different. The other thing you said that is very important is we have layers of intensity of trauma. So there are some people, they are so far away to be conscious and ready to start to practice. Some people are very far away. So we need to practice a little bit more time with these people before they go to action. Yeah. So this is something that is hard to explain in a practical way. How can you see it? But we have people more traumatized than other people, and we need to teach more. Let's say you were teach math in your childhood, and you learn to until 100 numbers. So, but no one teach you from 20 to 30. So then I need to find out what you miss, and I will teach you 20 to 30. There are some people, they only learn 1 to 10. So I need to catch up a lot. I don't know if it was a silly metaphor, but
No, you have great
yeah.
metaphors always. That makes sense. The one thing I'm actually curious about is, again, we also talked a lot about this. Where's the point where you say, victimization is of course a big issue that we have these days in society, right? Where everyone is using that, playing that as a card. I've had trauma, I've had a bad childhood, I've had whatever kind of issue, and now I'm using it as a way to justify why I behave a certain way or why I think I deserve something, to receive something. So where in your therapy do you kind of draw the line and you say, okay, like I have empathy with what happened to you, and that's terrible, but then also because ultimately you want to help the person, right? So how do you work with people to not stay in a kind of victimization basically?
Mm. Again, I think it's this balance between validation and pushing the person to another direction.
Mm.
I remember the other day, Lisbeth, who creates this therapy that I'm a huge fan, Bodynamic. She was a trapezist before she started to, as a teenager, she was doing trapezist gym
Mhm.
or sport. I don't know how you say it. Uh, and I always thought about one of the things she said that is healthy. Being healthy is you are all owner of your dilemmas. That's one of the healthy definition. So it means that if you are very good in a mental health level, it's not you don't have problems, it's not you cannot complain or victimize for a while, but you know that you have to make choices and you have to go and find a way to do something. So in a way, people that are stuck in victim, they need some validation, of course, but they need to move on. And one of the things that I think is the most difficult task that we should learn in childhood that we are not good is choices. If you think about choices, it's the base of everything. We make 35,000 choices per day. It's impressive. And there's two ways to break a child in this task. One is to have parents, very aggressive parents, very controlling parents, that they never give you the chance to make choices, or they punish you when you make choices that are not agreeing with their options, or parents that always make you a little bit free to make choices. Now, for instance, there is this positive parenting that starts to have some issues right now, because 10 years ago was a very huge movement. I think the intention of this coach was to stop violence in children upbringing. That was the intention. But then they start to build a method that they call positive parenting. And they are building a lot of narcissist kids because they were raised like they make the choices. And you don't know, but for a 2 years old child, choosing what I want for a lunch is very scary. So kids, they are really, really scared to make choices because it's so hard for a grown-up to make a choice. Can you imagine for a child? So we are not good making choices, and everything we need to make a choice, even to do therapy, even to change something in our personality. Everything has consequences and choices. So I think this victimization is because people really feel experience stuck inside of themselves, because they don't feel, if you look these people talking, they don't feel they have choices. They really don't feel they have choices. Is if you say, but you can choose. No, I have to work.
Mhm.
You have to? Who told you you have to? Oh, the government. I have to pay my bills. Who's going to pay my bills? Yeah, but this is a choice. I have to pay taxes. Yeah, but you can make a choice to not pay. Yeah, but then I go to jail. Of course, there's consequences for all the choices, but people still feel stuck in this not feeling powerful. And in my experience, the hardest ones are people that have a very permissive um, childhood. The parents were built teach them that if it's a hard choice, I will help you. You don't have to make this hard choice. So they were not taught to go through this pain of making a wrong choice and have a punishment or a consequence. So they were having so nice parents. Every time the shit was hitting the fan, the parents were, I can say these things here.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's all good. I'm not monetized yet.
every
It's all good.
time every time was a hard decision, the parents were kind of, okay, I take you from that pain, I will help you. And they start to come as grown-ups waiting for this help. Really simple things, like for instance, you go to the pastry and you can see this. Do you want a chocolate cake or a vanilla cake? The kids get so overwhelmed because they want both. The first impulse, I want both. Why I should not have both? So some parents, they give both, or to help them, they make the choice for the kids. So this is so often that you cannot imagine. So these people then became victims because they really don't feel the power of making choices. They really didn't felt. So again, they don't know how to make choices. That's why they experience being a victim.
I actually have a question. Give me a second here. I have a book that I bought, I don't know how many times, because it was cheap, and I give it to people as a gift. It's a book by
Jung,
Jung.
yeah.
I think it's just in German, but it's called From Father, Mother, and Child: Insights and Wisdoms. And one
Uh-huh.
of the things he says that nothing has a psychological, more important, bigger impact on children than the unlived life of their parents.
Yes.
Would you say
Yes.
that that's probably also one of the many cases here where, because I'm thinking on one side, of course, I'm thinking about, you know, being a child or going through therapy as from a child perspective, but then I'm also thinking about, I mean, I don't have kids yet, but I will have them eventually. I have a lot of friends right now who have also gone through therapy themselves. Now they have kids and they almost want to do it perfect. And so I'm wondering, right, like how, you already talked a little bit about this with the positive parenting and all these modern styles, but what is in the thing with, as being a parent where you might have, because, as the Bible says, right, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Like when I think a lot
Mhm.
of these parents, they don't do that because they want to harm their kids. They do it because they have ultimately good
most
intentions in
most
that
of the
moment.
parents,
But then
yeah,
you, like you said, you rob them of that power. So,
Mhm.
what is it about the parents in those moments?
They don't know they are doing it. That's one of my dreams because we don't know. By this example I just gave you is in the pastry store,
Mm,
is a simple example, and they don't know they are taking the power away. And after you do it 10 times, kids start to see the positiveness about that. Okay, every time I feel struggle to make a choice, I put my parents doing it, and then if it goes wrong I can blame them. That's comfortable. So kids are so fast learning. So this is a very, we call this stage of development wheel structure stage. Actually, Germany, we start to joke as teachers to see what are the main traumas in different countries. And in your country, we have a lot wheel structure in our perspective, right and wrong, good and bad, by the law or illegal.
mm,
You know, we
sounds
put
familiar.
this in this my choice, consequence, punishment. We have a little bit in Portugal, but it's different. It's like victim. It's like I don't have power, so I do my best. I sacrifice. So we have the same trauma, but a little bit different.
Mm,
And we, of course, we are very romantic. But this Jung sentence, actually, Jung was an inspirational guy for Elizabeth because of collective knowledge. So Jung was talking about these things; they are there for all of us, and we cannot go and run away from it. So we need to embrace it. So I think there are two things here. One, I think the drive to be the best parent I can be is an amazing drive. We should keep that. And of course, our direction is perfection. But we know this doesn't exist, it's a reference. Yeah. So we say I want to be perfect. This is perfect. This is metaphoric. Yeah. This is a reference. Yes. I go. I walk in the direction of the sun. Of course, I'm not going to fly like Icaro too close to the sun, but it means a reference, metaphoric reference. I go to the light. I go to be positive.
mm.
I go to be um, perfect parent. So I think it's a good drive. You know, I think it's a very positive drive. I want to be the best parent I can be. And most of the times, the motivation is because I'm paying so hard the bill of the fact that my parents did a mistake. Yeah. But um, that's not the best advisor, our own pain. That's one. Because let's say oh, my father never gave me the chance to make choices, so my kids will have always choice. And it's funny. And Jung was talking about that, or was talking about archetypes. So if you go to his theory of archetypes, you will have God and you have the devil. You
Mm.
will have always this yin and yang opposite. So the other side of the coin is just different, but the result is the same. So, and this balance is difficult to find, especially if no one teach you. So if you don't have a skill that no one teach you, how can you teach to your son something that you never been taught before?
Yeah.
You can go to books, you can go to theory, but then you are not current, you know. Um, for instance, I just gave you my example because I feel more comfortable to give my examples. I don't have so much permission to give examples of my clients, and ethically, I don't think it's nice. Uh, I told you about feeling guilty, and I have to be not selfish. So every time my daughter, now she's 15, but when she was very little, and she's very good crying because she has this lovely face, and when she cries, look like the world is falling apart. When she was crying that she was not having something that she wants, like for instance, mommy, I'm cooking, and she comes and say, mommy, I want your attention now, but I have to cook, and say, now I cannot, I have to finish cook, go and play, and I will see you. And then she was crying, and then I was thinking, I'm selfish right now.
Mm.
So how come I can be a good mother if I have this issue on my back as a person, as a human being, independent of my role? Of course, it's not working. So even I was trying to catch up on therapy a little bit. Now is better because I'm in teenager, so I can regulate. But there were some things that I didn't help her so much because of my problem. So one of the things I have to say to parents is good, you want to be the best parent. I agree with you. It's very rare we can see a parent with bad intention, narcissist disorder, sociopath, borderlines. I think borderlines are even more difficult parents than narcissists because they are so struggling with their own pain. So you will have some disorders, and again, is disorders is not because the person don't like their kids. Is disorders that they can be very, very intentionally negative parents, punish their kids, hate their kids, using their kids. But 99% of the parents, they really want to do best for their kids. And unfortunately, I always joke with my students when they start to learn these stages and they start to see, oh my God, I just did shit with my kids. I always play around a little bit. I forgive you. You are forgiven. I forgive you because you didn't know. So is one of the things I really want to work with because I think this observation that Lisbeth did is really accurate. So is very, very good. Is not perfect, but this is the best I found to coach kids and parents as so far.
I
Worst case
actually,
scenario, if
so
something is wrong, I always say save some money and then you can sponsor the therapy of your kids afterwards. So that's what it is.
yeah, we've talked about that as well before. But I think, by the way, I also agree on the, before I want to go to the narcissism part, because I think it's so interesting. I think also what we talked about with the reason why I said having done all these substances and I've also done the meditation retreat, I think if you don't have anyone, it's great. It's almost like you go to gold mine and you get the gold, but then knowing how to integrate that basically, right? Coming up,
Yeah.
like you have the materials, but if you don't have someone else to kind of work with who's able to do it, I think then I'm not denying that a lot of people got a lot of value out of it. I'm glad, by the way, that there is now more movements towards it, and that it's more legalized using for PTSD. I mean, I don't know what you think about it when there's now soldiers
Oh,
getting those things.
uh-huh. I think everything could be possible. And I heard about very, very good results with ketamine and
Ketamine, yeah.
yeah. And when someone, So I call this type of therapies insight therapies, because you get a lot of insights. And sometimes in therapy is like peeling an onion every day. It takes more time because you have a lot of defenses mechanism that is so underlined on you that is so hard to dig. And sometimes when you go, this is like a fast track, because one of main definitions of people when they experience this kind of events is it looks like I was not having any defense. I was really naked.
Mhm.
I was not having any defense mechanism. So this makes a fast track to go inside of your deep wound. So that's, I think, is a resource. Jung was always talking also about this process, saying be careful what you find out on these events, and then how come you are strong to integrate these new foundings.
Yeah.
So sometimes our current life and even our body cannot handle accessing to this memory, because there's a purpose, because of these memories are not available yet, because you are not ready. When you are ready, automatically your body starts to bring the memories through dreams. Dreams are the coming from the collective knowledge slowly to you. So is like a layer of pre-consciousness. And some people, they want fast, they want with no pain, they want with no time waiting, so they want fast. So I see a lot of people with a lot of insights, but you know what, knowing what you have or what is the reason of the problem is not enough to fix it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I see a lot of people full of information. They have a lot of information about their coping mechanism, but they are full of information. And they are like chaotic. That's why I was saying, go to your current life and say, what is the priority right now that I feel like I want to take care that is not good in my life? And then we start from there. Because if you find out, okay, I was not loved from my mother, I was not respected from my father, my brother was bullying me, my friends were whatever, I was feeling not loved in my or rejected in my first relationship, then you are full of these insights. And then you start from where? Um, I was talking with Lisbeth. She's 84 years old, and she's my supervisor. I am lucky. For me, it's like I was supervised by Freud. That's my experience. I even joked with her the other day. She was here in Portugal to a training, and I said, I want you to go to baby suits to the beach to have a picture of intimacy with the, to use in some 50 years, to use this picture with her. But she was saying she born in a time that was after the Second World War, the dream to be peace and love a lot. And they were using a lot of drugs like we are using right now. So for her, it's cute because it looks like a repetition. And of course, there were people getting insights and finding path. Other people, they were like activating some mental disorders. Like some people wake up some schizophrenia traits, some dissociative things. So I'm always extra careful because you will put your body in a shock state,
Mhm.
because the body feels this external drug as someone attacking me, not supporting me. So people vomiting, people shaking, people feeling lost in the reality. So some people can feel very peaceful, but feeling very peaceful on the place that you cannot feel your own body. Sorry, this is a path for suicide, because you are not here anymore. Nothing is important, nothing matters. I don't feel my body, I'm not conscious of what I'm doing, and I'm feeling so happy. Mm, okay, I want to be there for the forever. That's where,
Like a
you know,
child almost, no?
no, I will not say that, but this is something that you cannot sustain. So why you want to be in that place? What is wrong in life right now? Life is amazing. Why you don't feel that in your daily life when you are doing a coffee in the morning? You can have that. One of the terms we use a lot is spirituality in your daily life. How much spiritual guy or girl you can be just doing your coffee in the morning. This is possible, but I think people only have these moments, and then life is so boring when you are not in these moments. If you look at the symptoms of consequences after heroin, is because people are saying, I was visiting a very amazing place of pleasure and fascinating colors and experience, and then I come to gray life and I have to live always
Mm.
in this boring life. So, but I think some people really need to do this to have some insights. Sometimes therapy is not enough for these people. So I think we should keep these things. But then you have to pick what you get from these events and then bring to work daily life with that.
You've talked about the defense mechanism there, which is a term that we've talked a lot about in our sessions, and I'd like you to clarify that a little bit more, how you would define that, how that shows up, because I think it's helped me so much learning about this myself. Like even what you always say, it's like when you're able to observe what you're doing, that's already half the way there, right? You
Yes,
always say that, and I think when
yes.
I realize that now, when you talk about, we have a lot of examples that we work on together, in my relationships with girlfriends and family and friends and colleagues, and when suddenly there's behavior of being passive aggressive or those types of things.
Mhm.
So talk to us about what exactly is a defense mechanism, how does it show up again, where does it come from, and then also what's a way how to work on that.
Yeah, good question. So, in our theory, we call character structures. So the name comes from Latin. Character is the stamp back in the king's time when you are changing letters between kings. They were putting a specific stamp with the information that when this mail was coming with this letter, what king was from because of the stamp.
Mhm.
So it means is a stamp. So it's something that is a tattoo on you. So we call character structure because it's structure organizing you, and it is in your personality. But other therapies they could call coping mechanism, defense mechanism. So they are trying to say the same thing. So they mean the same thing. So if I pick the word defense mechanism, um, the word is saying I'm defending for something. Yeah. I need a mechanism to defend myself for some attack. So overall is what they means. And it's good we can defend ourselves because life is not so easy. Huh? It's not a strawberry. So you need to have some defenses. I even joke in teaching, some people have guns to defend themselves. Some people have um, knife, and we can discuss which defense mechanism is better. Are you a knife person or are you a gun person? But both are there for you. If someone make you feel in danger, you can take your defense mechanism. So that's a metaphor that we can use to represent these psychological strategies that we have to defend ourselves for some threats. So that's the first thing. Then we were studying the children in this Bodynamics school, and this is one way. So you have, for instance, Jordan Peterson has 5 types of personality, I think so. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you have Enneagram. So you have in cognitive behavioral therapy is also, I think, 5 or 7 types. I don't know exactly. So we have a lot of schools trying to analyze people in even astrology, you know? So what is the personality? Is one specific way of behaving that you choose to be yours every day. So is your way. So some of us we are conscious of everything we do. Some of us, we are not really conscious that, let's say, some people say, I am shy. I am a shy person. That's my personality. It doesn't mean some days you cannot be extrovert, but most of the times that's your type. Yes. So that's overall a combination of defense mechanisms and everything you are in norms and values. So why we need to build defense mechanism? Because, as I said, life is dangerous, so you need to have it. And because mostly when you were a child, you need it. So that's impressive. It means that we're born with a gun and with a knife already, all of us. That's good. And if you see these kids' stories that we should read to them, so I don't know in Germany, but we have here um, the many stories when you have the mother, the stepmother, the witch, these kind of stories, and some of them they're horrible stories. And why we tell these stories to kids? So there's a wolf that lied to you and swallow your grandmother. So there's this kind of ugly stories, but this story is trying to start to stimulate the kids for real life.
Like the
That life
archetypes, you
is
mean?
dangerous. Yeah. And the funniest thing is we born with these defenses available, and of course they are activated if we are under a threat. So who can threat us in childhood? Of course, our parents, yes, but could be the kindergarten, could be the grandmother. So it's not officially that is always the mother or the father. Um, the first 2 years of your life, the mother has a very powerful role because it's the person that is our reference for most of us. There's always exceptions, people their mother die or get raised by grandmother, but overall we choose a person that is our leader. That's the reference person. Yeah. So this person sometimes can put us in a threat situation. What could be a threat? Oh my god, so many things. So for instance, when I'm very newborn baby, a threat is, for instance, if my mother leaves me alone. Huh? So I was with her 9 months. Then I'm so scared because I go out from her body and then I'm in a new place that is cold. I have to breathe from my lungs and it's painful. I smell her, I can feel her, but I don't know if I can lose her. So if she let me in the bed for 5 minutes, I can experience that I will never see her again. This is a threat for a baby. So what kind of defense mechanism this baby could build in order to navigate in this challenge, because the baby don't know the mother was just taking a pee pee on the bathroom and she's coming after. The baby feels like I will be abandoned. How many people that you talk and come to therapy and say I experience abandonment? A lot. So there's a lot of people with this trauma because the mother was just doing some mistakes. And the baby feels threat, and then he finds overall two types of defenses that I call gun and knife. One type of the babies, they collapse, they give up to hope she's coming back, so they kind of believe, yes, I will be abandoned, that's life. Other type, they fight back and they try to scream and try to say, come back to me, baby, don't let me go. So this is the gun style. So then we found out that in every stage, we always use one of these two defenses, or we fight or we give up according to different issues. Um, so then every stage we have opportunity to feel the learning process, but if something goes wrong, we experience some threat and then we find a defense mechanism. In this example I gave you, to avoid abandonment, I dissociate from feeling abandoned. I give up to expect something. So I become a grown up that every time someone abandoned me, I start to get depressed. I start to get hopeless, and I start to feel like there's nothing I can do. And then I go to therapy and say, oh, I just finished a relationship and I'm depressed because it's like my life ends without this person. I feel I want to die because I don't have this person anymore. So this is a defense mechanism to deal with abandonment because I was taught that in the childhood.
Could this even be, by the way, sorry to interrupt. I mean, there's all these examples. I think many of us have been there. Is even if you don't text me back for a day because you had your phone was turned off and then you didn't text me back or something, and then or you were gone. That even triggers something like that, and then a negative reaction to your partner.
Exactly. So if we have some traumas, we get so obsessed with these red flags. And for instance, getting paranoid that this person will abandon me just because she didn't call me is a defense mechanism. This example you are giving is fighting. Because the person didn't call me, I go to my memory and I think this is a sign. I know I've been there. When I was 9 months, it happens to me. I know what it means silence. I know what it means she's not here. So I cannot be abandoned. So I'm going to make it fall very, very big drama of it. And then I call to the person, why you didn't call me? Why you are not calling? I was just working. You are lying to me. Yes, I'm telling you, I don't believe it. This is a fight style. This is a fight style. Listen to me. How can a grown up, when he finish a relationship, he thinks like, if I don't have my boyfriend or girlfriend, I want to die. My life stops. This is a very weird reaction. But this is what we call the defense mechanism. So I use a strategy to navigate with life when life is a challenge. Unfortunately, when we get a trauma, something that is look like this trauma, we tend to react with our defense mechanism. So, for instance, we were talking about one defense mechanism is being passive aggressive. Passive aggressive is one we want to say something negative, but we don't want to open a conflict, or we don't want to hurt the person, and then we swallow this authenticity, and then we cannot swallow it enough, and then it goes out in a very weird way, and then the person say, why you were saying that? Because we were raised in a place that every time I say my opinion or what I feel, my mother punished me or make me feel bad what I said, so I didn't have the freedom to say what I should say. So I was taught to have a defense mechanism. Every time you want to say something, put in the filter of a passive aggressive thing, and then if the person pressure you, you say, I was joking, come on. you know that's another example, and we have many examples of defenses mechanism. So I love defense mechanism. We need to have that. So I never teach the person to change the defense, because if I take your defense, how can I make sure you go to life and then you save your ass from some problem? So you need to keep your gun and your knife. The only thing I will teach you is to be aware, for you know when you are use it, and you know how much you want to use it and when you want to use it, and if you want to pay the consequences of using. And what we learn is, if I teach you what your mother was threatening you, then you don't need to use the defense anymore, because there's no attack. The experience of being attacked is vanished. So instead of us to focus our job and break the defense mechanism, we just teach to identify the defense, why the defense exists, and then I will teach you what you miss in order to build that defense in the first place. Make sense? Or
I
is it
think
too complicated?
one of the most amazing things you've taught me in this regard is basically saying, what's the actual emotion that I'm actually feeling, right? So you would say to me, I don't know, there was a certain reaction that I would say a certain thing to my brother, and I would be very judgmental. I would use it as a way to get what I want. But then you would show me that actually the emotion that I was feeling, I was scared because I was afraid he was going to do something stupid. But instead of just saying that, right, I would then I don't know, package it and be, again, be judgmental, be passive aggressive, maybe.
Yeah, judgment is a defense mechanism. When we feel hopeless, when we feel like we cannot do anything, we judge. And intention of judging is to point something in order for the person who has the power to change this, please change it. So yes, I'm hurting you with my judgment, but my intention is, please, can you stop, because I'm scared you can hurt yourself and me.
Yeah.
So that's the intention of judgment. But of course, society, they are really trying to take the judgment away, and I think this is very dangerous, because judgment is not always negative. Is a kind of boundaries. So if I say, oh, you are a blue eyes person, I'm judging you, or just naming something that is concrete. So if you feel like you are a really blue eyes person, why you feel judged about it? So I'm a little bit skeptical with this new tradition. Listen the person without judgment. What is judgment in the first place? We need to investigate, because for different people, judgment is like you close an assumption, or you have an opinion, or you are accusing the person of something. So we need to make sure what is really a judgment, because if I'm pointing something that you are doing, I'm not judging you, I'm just naming what I'm seeing.
But I mean, I think the way that people think of judgment is almost like there's a moralistic uh, uh, um, tone to it, right? Like, I want to teach you something. I want to tell you what you're doing is not right. It's not appropriate.
And sometimes it's not. And sometimes it's not. And people need to handle that. And not make the person who says that the bad person.
I see it now. I get it. Okay. I see.
So again, too much is negative, too less is also negative. We are in the moment that we want to eradicate judgment, and this is very dangerous. In my opinion, is very dangerous.
Do you think it's
Judgment
because
is
we're afraid?
painful.
Do you think we're afraid to because we don't want to hurt people's feelings, or why?
Oh my God. Is many reasons. Is many reasons. But one of the things I see is the world, in my opinion, if I read story, we are getting better every year. If we look to the data, if we look to how many people die, the longevity that we can get, the quality of life that we have, the power of choosing right now, my God, let's pick a storybook. Even if I fly, for instance, to India, I was 2 months ago in India. I'm so much free in Portugal and India. Shame on me. So listen, we are in some cases moving forward, but of course, changing is always giving some consequences, because in the world there's nothing without consequences. But our intention is to get better. And you are seeing right now, the world is moving in one direction, and then they saw, okay, we thought this was good, but it's not so good. I'm giving you a simple example. So kids, my daughter now is 15, they were using a lot of cell phone, and every parent was fighting to not give a cell phone, but it became impossible. So all the kids to belong, they have to have a cell phone. By the way, I did a study with 5,000 kids in my master. How was better or worse to have cell phone? And guess what? Not having is worse for the kids than having, because they are outside of society and they don't follow the trades or the viral movements, so they are aside. So it's very painful for teenagers to not be in these things. But of course there's some side effects. And you know what is now the best seller cell phone right now? Is this stupid phones that we used in my time in 80s, that you only have the numbers. They have a name of these phones. I think it's stupid, simple phones, stupid phones.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, my generation, we had the Nokia and those.
Yeah. Is these phones that you have this digital, not digital numbers, is rubber numbers that you can put the numbers. and the screen don't have many apps, only 1-2 apps maximum.
Right.
Because they said we are so overwhelmed with so much apps that we now, you know what, we want the opposite. I was saying to my daughter, I think your daughter or your son will forbidden to have a cell phone. So we have a tendency to go to extremes. So I think we went for sometimes to extreme places, like judging a lot, punishing a lot. Our parents were violent. Then we raise kids like, let's eradicate what is painful: judgment, punishment, violent, layers, meritocracy. Let's avoid this and let's dream with the world when everyone is perfect and no one judges anyone and everything is love. And then it's not also working.
Mm.
So I think that's why now we are in this place of judgment. And of course, judgment is painful. But you know what? If you judge me and is right, I just need time to integrate that you are right. So it's not a judgment, it's just a fact. And I need to take that in. And maybe I can ask you, oh, Dennis, don't be so rough saying it. Can you say softly? Can you kill me softly? Judge me with softness, because it's easy for me to take it. But if it's true, you are just helping me because you are pointing a fact. If it's not truth, I will take it and say, Dennis, you are not right. This is not true. And if you are nice with me, you'll say, yes, I'm sorry. I misunderstand. We organize. So why we are so afraid of judgment?
Doesn't it also go a little bit back to the whole thing about being too romantic? When you think about how rough life really is in the end, and basically accepting that. I mean, Nietzsche talked about amor fati, right? Where you basically learn to love life. You learn to love your fate, pretty much, and that can be very negative. There can be a lot of pain and suffering and not, like, negative things. But ultimately, you say, like, because we have to grow, that's like the best thing you can do, and there's beauty inside of it.
Yeah. So I have to admit, there are some people, they have horrible life that I cannot ask that.
Mhm.
I have to admit. So life was so horrible that. But it's funny when you see some kids, they been through horrible childhood. If you look, they are the best sellers. They are the most competent and powerful people. It's impressive. You never see someone succeeding and powerful in life that have a very perfect childhood. Maybe it's 1%. Most of them, they are facing a lot of challenges in their childhood. So in the way, there's a readiness for life. So everything that happens, one, they are grateful when everything is okay. And when something is problematic, they will find a way to solve it. So I think we should prepare us, like, what was the sentence? It's best to have a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war.
Yeah, to
So
be a gardener. Yeah, to be a gardener in a war.
yeah,
Yeah.
is a phrase like that.
No, I think it's like it's better to be a warrior
A
in a no,
warrior in the
in a
garden.
garden than a gardener in a war. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit the mindset. Some people say, but why you should be so hard with your kids and prepare them for horrible things, and then life is so beautiful, so you are putting some problems in their head? That's a choice. That's a choice. uh, you can choose to do that. For instance, we have Ukraine war, you have Israel war, so war is not so much fantasy anymore. So we have the COVID. So some people got so traumatized from COVID because they didn't have any resources inside to face this kind of reality. And a lot of people were putting some filters, pink filters, saying everything will be okay,
Mm.
everything will be perfect, and people were dying. So can I prepare my kids for the worst case scenario? Again, I go to the balance, the trapezist in the role. So not too much, not too less, but prepare my kids for a fantastic world when everything will be okay. I think we actually, I think there are some people in America trying to include this as a neglected parenting, overprotection. Overprotection start to become a behavior of a parenting that is considered neglection.
Oh,
Neglection.
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, and that's an interesting perspective spin of it.
So I think is a really extreme level of romanticizing. Yes, I think we have this disease. But again, when we go to extreme, the result is building the opposite. So we are having a lot of opposite extreme reactions. So in a way, there's too much realistic. Doesn't exist too much realistic. Too much realistic is a level of romantic. So, for example, say everything will be okay is not realistic. Everything will be wrong is not realistic.
I
Neither.
see. Yeah, same coin again. I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of, when you and I met, let's not forget about this. I met you because I had a lot of health issues at the time, and I think initially the first thing that we worked on, I think why one of my therapists said I should, like a physical therapist said I should work with you, is because to develop that trust again in the body, and also for for
Hmm.
symptoms in this case
Hmm.
that you might not feel okay, but it doesn't immediately mean that you're going to die, right?
Yeah.
Which was the thing that I
Yeah.
always had. And then I think you and I worked a lot also on this topic of then thinking that you can kind of control it, right? Where you then, you seek out,
Yeah.
you take medicine, you buy supplements, you do treatments, just so you can avoid that unpleasant feeling.
Yeah. So since you open, I'm going to, with your permission, open a little bit.
Please be my guest. I mean, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I mean, if it
No,
helps
no,
anyone, honestly, let's
no, no.
go for it.
I'm not saying you're dirty, so don't worry.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
just. No, 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 no. I'm joking. You don't have it. But what I'm trying to say, because saying this, I'm saying you bring a lot of anxiety on you. So what I'm trying to say is the main substantial reason of anxiety is this idealization of control. And listen, the anxious people, they are the most grounded people in one hand because they know it could happen. For instance, I'm going to give a stupid example. You are flying on the plane and should not be afraid. Why? The plane can fall down. You can have an accident. You can crash. Of course, this is a chance. Oh, the chance is very rare, but it's a chance. So the anxious people, they are not stupid. They are not paranoid. The anxiety comes from a place. But what they dream is to look for control. So in a way, healing and anxiety is to teach the person to tolerate not having control, because that's what we are. Again, we don't have control of anything, not realistic. We control everything, not realistic. There's something in between, but a lot of people hate to be in between. They want to make sure, okay, tell me, can I control or can I not control? So, in my opinion, as I told you in the beginning when I met you, you got the shock trauma. So, and it's interesting because a shock trauma again could comes from anything. So, for instance, if I get COVID and then I almost die from it, of course I get the shock and was a virus. The threat was inside of my own body. So I can be traumatized. And every time I have a sign, so, for instance, I have a lot of clients, they have miscarriage, especially the first ones, because they've been through many years without any pregnancy. And when they have the first one, they are 40s. And the body, most of the times, the first pregnancy time is not succeed. That's my experience right now. Back in the times, women were having kids at 20s. So not so much miscarriage as we have right now. So after a shock like this, because it's a shock, you know it could happen. Your doctor explained, but it was inside of your own body. That's not enough. That's logical, but it's biological. So you cannot make the biological coming to the logical. And then what happens with these women when they got pregnant again? Every sign in their body is a red flag. Everything. My heartbeat. So, and in my experience, if you will give me this permission, if you don't want, you can cut
No,
after.
please go for it. I mean,
you have a moment that you got a disease, normal disease, but the way it happens and with the information you got and the time that happened, it scared you in a level that you, okay, I can die from it. And probably you are right. You know,
Yeah.
I one time I did a surgery, it was a simple surgery, but my blood pressure got so down that I almost died. I'm here, I'm okay, but my body gets so scared of this. So every time I go to some doctor or something, this flashback comes. I want to control this situation because I don't want to die. So I think this was your context. So, and I was kind of teaching you to have a tolerance to this losing the control. So and this gave you a little bit of anxiety with body. So one of the things that I really like in body therapy, and we didn't work deeply body therapy together because it's not your need. Some people have different styles. Um, is losing the fear of your own body, because we are so afraid to our body. No one teaches to cope with the heart beating. No one teaches to feel dizzy. No one teaches to lose the hair. No one teaches to be okay with that. We are afraid of ourselves.
Hmm.
You know, we
Yeah.
are. So, one of the things I really like in body therapy is to teach you to not be afraid of your own symptoms. Say, yes, your heart is beating. Yes, probably something has happened, but for sure you will not die. Yeah. So and this is something that all the spectrum of anxiety needs to learn to lose the control. What is the worst case scenario? Okay, I could die. Yeah, and if you die, you don't have a problem anymore, you are dead.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I cannot teach you to learn to be okay with dying, but I can teach you to have a bigger tolerance and what you can do to, okay, I'm not controlling, but I'm managing not controlling, because our nature is to control, and I think this is perfect. We need to control some things in our life, but again, when it's too much, we have anxiety.
I honestly, the way that I can sense working with you, how much it's helped me, is that sometimes when even I have something, and I'm thinking, I'm almost automatically, I want to make an appointment with a doctor, right? Or order something online or Google. And then you're like, well, let me just try to hold out. Let me just wait for a day. And I can still
Yeah.
do it tomorrow, you know? And then that's
And,
already for me, that's already like a win. I'm like,
but
actually, I don't
yeah,
need it
that's
anymore.
a good observation, because that's a good example. I was joking, and I teach that to my students, therapists mostly. I used to say that development trauma is milk, and shock trauma is coffee, and a complex PTSD is a good cappuccino, and because it has some little bit of cacao on the top. And this is an example that you were raised in your development trauma. Everything that is hard, your family and maybe your culture and maybe your ancestors teach you is to fix it. So
Yeah.
if you have a problem, that's a defense mechanism in your personality that if I can have permission to say it.
Please, please.
Yeah. So and guys are very raised to be a doer. So if you have an issue and if you see the issue, what is the impulse? Fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have, after, when you are 18, 20, I don't know what was this event, you almost die from asthma, shock, whatever. I'm
Hmm.
telling random is not the case, but to illustrate.
Yeah.
And then you cannot do anything. So your coping mechanism is not possible. That's what I was giving the example. When it's shock trauma, your consciousness is not there. So every skills Dennis has in that shock moment vanished. The person you are in that moment, life was saying, you know what, here you cannot do anything. So life take your defense mechanism, and you don't have gun, you don't have knife, you don't have anything. You are just waiting to die. Then when you come to your daily life, when a trigger comes, is a mix of this coffee and milk. You have your coping mechanism, but you are not again in a shock situation. It's just a small trigger. So you are not fully in a high level of stress. So you
Yeah.
see a trigger, like for instance, you have a fever, you have a flu. Then your brain say, Dennis, it's coming again. You are going to die. Then your coping mechanism say, come on, relax, let's do something. So
Yeah.
your impulse is to do something. So that's a very example how complex PTS can look like. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's the funny thing here is when you talk about like you write about like being a doer, being a fixer, but more like in a reactive sense. Like the biggest struggle that I always had, as you know, for a long time was actually being proactive in a good
Mm-hmm.
way, right? Where you use that
Mm-hmm.
same energy and you say, I want to build something, I want to do something, and you procrastinate, and you become lethargic. And I think rather canalizing, what's the word? Canalizing it, yeah, that way
Mm-hmm.
that was like the much bigger thing, right? So it's even the same thing when some people say, "Oh, I'm so busy, I'm working so much," but a lot of times they're just being reactive to things that's coming from the outside. That's why they feel so
Is the
stressed,
coping mechanism
right?
automatic? You don't feel you have a choice. You just do it. Because if you are always and men, they have a lot of this coping mechanism. They are doers. That's why some men, when they retire or when they don't have a purpose of life, they depressed because they are not able to do anything. Especially when they come to a place. So the doers, the wound of the doers is hopelessness, helplessness, yeah, powerlessness. So when you put me in the place that there's nothing I can do, I get depressed, and you know what? I don't do anything more. It can go to that extreme. So we need to know what is the purpose of doing something. And
Yeah,
I say men, they have a lot of that because most of the things that happen to us, there's a path that we should go naturally. So something happens with us. The first thing is emotions. We feel something around this event. And after we have a sensation, body sensation, because emotions, they navigate on us through the blood and hormones. So we feel something in our body. And right there, we have interpretation of that. I don't know. I see someone looking at me. I feel scared. And my interpretation is this person hates me. Yeah. So then I have an impulse to do something. So I'm going to say hello and smile to the person to make the person feel comfortable and not hate me. So this is a path that we go through more or less. So when we have this coping mechanism as a doer, what happens is I see something, I feel something, I have some sensation, but I was taught to not feel so much. So I see something, and right there I go and I fix it, or I'm going to do something. And they don't feel really their body or emotions, man, a lot. So they were raised to not feel so much. And the emotion has a very good role in our life because the emotion is like a light over the right direction in my action. So it gives me information very precious. What I want to do, if something I can do, I cannot do anything, or so I see a lot of people jumping from the problem to the solution a
hmm
lot.
yeah,
So that was something that we were working a lot. Let's go 2 steps back. There's a
yeah.
lot of clients, they come to me, they come to analyze the problem and feel the problem, but then they say, and now what I should do? I don't know. Let's feel it before, because if you don't feel it, you don't know what to do.
It's the most
If
annoying part for me of when we work together, but yeah, it helps. Yeah, I
But
actually
yeah,
want to. Yeah, sorry, you want to say one more thing on this?
no, I was saying there are some cultures, they are even incentivizing to fix it, not to talk about it or feel something. It looks like worthless, but it has a very, very good reason.
I want to focus on one more big thing because I'm also mindful of the time here. Where because we've talked a lot about this, and I think this is also a word that we hear a lot these days, which is narcissism. You also talked about being a sociopath. You also talked about being borderline, and I think one of the things as part of that is also when you said to me, nobody is special, everyone's unique, nobody is special. So I would like for you to kind of give us your own definition of these terms, how they're different, And then also, and I think this was the biggest learning for me, we always talk about, oh yeah, he's a narcissist. But then also discovering that in ourselves, how we all have, though on a different spectrum, but we all have that to some degree. And I think that's a thing that we also, don't want to admit maybe to ourselves. But I think it'd be interesting to break it down. And again, also how it shows in relationships and what we can do about it.
Mm. Okay, so personality disorders, they are in psychology field recognized as a mental disorder disease. Yeah, so people don't like to talk about that. So people really say, and right now, oh, don't put me in the label. This makes me feel horrible. It's like, okay, when it comes to mental issues, we get very scared. I think we are more evolutes in medicine than in psychology area, because if I say you have diabetes, no one fights back because we have a blood test and you cannot fight with a blood test. But when it comes to mental disorders, people get in panic to have these labels. They don't see how much is good for us to organize the disease and try to fix it. So people even don't like that we compare medical issues with mental issues. They think this like, I think we are losing a lot of energy and time because of that. But anyway, that's my opinion. And then I'm talking with you about development trauma. I used to say to my students that the first 12 years of your life is your school life. So you should learn everything you need to become a very nice grown up. So the first 12 years, you should learn everything you need. And every stage is a scholar level. So first year you learn something, second year you learn another thing, third year another thing. And unfortunately, you cannot repeat the years. You have one opportunity to learn this. If you go to school and learn it and the teacher is good for you. If you didn't go to the class or the teacher was not good enough or you were not catching the theory, you lose it and then you cannot catch back. Then you have teenager that you will have your internship. With everything you learn in the first 12 years, you will practice what you learn and see if you want to change something, if you have to have extra classes, and then you catch up what you need. Then you go to life, and then you start to live what you learn. If you have it, you have it. If you don't have it, life will swallow you, or life will give you bad experience for you to know that, okay, you missed something. Jung was saying that you will have a path of learning. You have two ways to learn. One, you look for it by therapy and self-knowledge, or by destiny. Life will teach you with the life experience, and life will show you that you don't know this, you know? So we said that if you didn't learn properly everything in these first 12 years, you have to have a strategy to cope with the missing classes. So then we call the defense mechanism. So, and then we have layers of this coping mechanism. So let's say you learn 80% of everything, so you only miss 20% of you should learn, and that's why you are having some troubles in your grown up, because you don't have these 20s, so you need to catch up in your therapy. There are some people, they have so much damage and neglected childhood, they are almost 50-50, so they know 50, they need to catch up 50%. So it means to cope with life without 50% of the knowledge, they need to have a coping mechanism. And they have a lot of defenses in a way that they didn't build a very balanced personality. So that's what we call personality disorder. It's because you were not teach many things and you are trying to hide and pretend and defend yourself because you are so vulnerable and you use a lot of defenses and in a level that is in your daily life, in your personality. There's a lot of narcissists that we cannot see they are narcissists. The grandiose narcissism we can see because it's so visible. but the vulnerable narcissist, we can almost don't see.
What's a grandiose narcissist? How would you explain that?
Grandiose is this more often narcissism we know in social media is this person who brags, who says, I'm the best, I'm amazing, don't let anyone to talk. They are taking space, they use people, they say they are simply the best. The vulnerable is more, poor me, I'm so, no, I didn't win because no one let me. I feel so sad because no one give me attention. I should be special and no one treats me as special. So it's more vulnerable narcissist. You cannot see so much. But my point is, when it becomes too much trauma, your personality is so disorganized that becomes a disorder. But if you think about development trauma, it's like you have a little bit of a disorder. You have 10% of this disorder, you have 50% of this disorder, you have 20%. So in the beginning, they said to consider a disorder, you have to have a combination of these symptoms. What they were trying to say in DSM or SEED, that it has to be very high level of disturbancy, that this person cannot work in a baseline with society rules. It goes a little bit outside of this box, But if you are inside of this box of normality, you cannot say it's a disorder, it's just a personality. And you will have the benefits and the consequence to being like that. Yeah? So that's why we will say all of us, we have a little bit of narcissism in our personality. All of us, we have a little bit of borderline in our personality, because in a way, this is levels of trauma, of development trauma. Yeah?
What's an example of that? I mean, where we could say it's in a, what would I say, healthy way, but it's not, too much. It's when you say 10%, 5%, like what would that look like if I'm a regular person? And
before I give you example, I'll just finish this. So the new edition of this DSM, the Disease Statistic Manual, they did a extra page or chapter to exceptions, because they start to see there's so many other combinations, and some people, they have 3 symptoms only and they already behave a lot like these disorders. For instance, borderline, you need to have a lot of fear of abandonment. You need to have a lack of management of your impulses. You need to have self-image very disturbed. You need to have some difficulties to balance your foods. You could be anorexia, bulimia. You will have issues with drugs addiction or sex addiction. What else? They are 9, whatever. But let's say if you have 5 from these 9 symptoms, you are considered borderline disorder personality. But let's say you have just 2. You have anorexia and you have a lot of fear to be abandoned. So I will not say you are a disorder, but you are really look like a borderline disorder personality. So they start to see there's a lot of combinations and less symptoms. So how it looks like in the real life. So the narcissism, for instance, is a person who builds the character outside to hide the vulnerability inside. So in some levels, they believe so much in this character that they become this character. In my experience, narcissists, they feel everything like normal people, but because it's so painful, like for instance, they feel guilty, they feel ashamed, they feel down, they feel insecure, but they can stay with this 3 seconds. It's like a very hot potato in your hand. So I did something wrong, and you give me a potato for the hand, and I'm feeling responsible. I did something wrong, but I cannot stay with this guilt in my hand, and I throw out the potato and I say, it's your fault, it's not my fault, because I cannot stay in this place of being vulnerable. So how much of us that we have this, not every day, but a lot of times. So every time we do something wrong, instead of us to feel responsible and feel uh, accountability and say, okay, I did this wrong, okay, but I'm not a wrong person, but okay, I'm going to say sorry to the person. How much of us cannot do that
Mhm.
and say sorry and take accountability? You know what they do? They go to therapy and say, poor me, this person made me to do that, and I was forced, I didn't want, and she's also stupid, so I did this because I have to. So this is a little bit smells like this. If you, in your personality, you will never say sorry. This is a little bit of narcissist, or you want to be special. In my childhood, my mother was really suffering from many things. I think actually I cannot diagnose my mother, but I'm so sure she is a disorder, personality disorder, borderline personality disorder. So and then the relationship with my father was horrible. So as I told you, I was trying always to make her life easier, even if I was a child and not want to disturb. But then, because I was so focused in managing this conflict between them, sometimes I really like to help my mother, and I was trying to come to my father and mediate. And I think that's why I like to relationships issues and therapy. I think was the reason why, and of course we always have the reason why. So since very early, I was focused in mediation, talking. So I was taking time to listen to my father, to understand what is going on and try to reach him and try to make him calmer. And for my father, I think I was the only person doing that in his life. So it were some moments that my father was so happy because of my support. So then my father sometimes was treating me differently. I was having a special moment with my father and a special treatment. So then my mother was upset with that. Sometimes even my father was offering me some gifts in my birthday that was very wow. And my mother was like, what the fuck? Like, why do that with her? Um, and in a way, in a subliminal way, I was raised feeling there's something special on me, that I'm unique and different from my sisters, and I have more space and power. Then I found out that my father has a narcissist tendency, and they always choose a person they are making them their slaves to do bad things for them. So I was that person. So in a way, he gave me status. But what happens? I was just a child, so I was not belonging to the child level, because then my sisters were like not trusting me because I was doing an alliance with my father most of the time. So sometimes my father was saying, now you take care of your sisters. And then he said to my sisters, you have to follow all your sister says. So I was like a boss. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
happens in families a lot.
I was a
And
bit
then
like
this,
that. Yeah.
yeah, Minushini is a very good guy. He was working with that, and is our support in bodynamic therapy. Minushini theory was a family system therapy that I really like. His work is was a very very nice psychologist working with the family system, and he was saying most of the issues we have being special is around alliances. So there's a lot of mothers, they do alliances with boys because the husband was not so nice. So this prince charm is my chosen one. And this is so subliminal message that the kids thinks, oh, I have a special place. And then even if I don't want, I go to school, I go to my work, and there's something inside of me that I expecting some special place, to be the second one. Uh, because then it's so unconscious that we have skills to be that person, because we are raised to be focused on the leader and to make the leader happy and to be useful for the leader. So I have that skills, But at the same time, I expect to be treated special. And I didn't know that. I didn't know. It was some narcissist on me, like, I want a special treatment. And unfortunately, there's a lot of women uh, being a little bit princess and narcissist here, because most of the fathers makes the ladies, the girls, the princess of the daddy. And unfortunately, when they go to grown-ups relationships, they expect the partner treats her like a princess. They expect that he never says no to her, that he's taking care of their well-being, that, and now when we go to this role of men and women, the man is the provider and the woman is the princess. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong in here, but are you conscious that you expect that your partner treats you like a princess? Because it, you know
I'm just,
so
if I can interrupt for a second, ever
yeah.
since we worked together on this, and obviously I think we should also talk about the narcissism in men when it comes, because men also have that, as we talked about in my own therapy sessions. But when I'm on the dating apps and women are talking about that they expect that they're a princess or they want to have princess treatment, I'm already like left, swipe left. It's like, no,
again
not on that
again
level.
dennis again dennis we need also to be flexible, because then you don't have any girl to date, because that was that was cultural. But I'm just giving an example why we can experience to be uh, narcissist a little bit, and about, for instance, borderline, the issue about abandonment. How much of us we get crazy if someone chooses to not be with us as a partner? We get so personally attacked, like, what is wrong with me? This person is abandoned me, I'm not good enough. Come on, we don't abandon each other, we make choices here. Abandonment we can use for kids, for animals, for handicaps. We cannot say a grown-up abandon another grown-up. Choices. Sometimes I even say to my clients, sometimes this guy ghosts you because he don't wants to be with a so nice girl, because he knows is not the same level of norms and values. That's why he ghosts you. It's not because you are not amazing, it's because you are amazing and he don't want to have so amazing girl. You know? But this is a borderline trait we all have. So these disorders are references that if we go wrong in the development stages, this is the extreme we can go. But we can be in the spectrum, most of us. But I think we are so far away from look at this as a very healthy thing, as a reference, as normal, as okay. We go and we get so scared of this that we are losing so much time to really focus on what matters. Yeah. So
I'm just realizing. I mean, I think we should hopefully, if you're up for it, we should do a second session at one point, because I think there's so much else to unpack here. I have
yeah,
just a
it's
fine.
amazing. More than enough.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's amazing. I'm enjoying this. I just have a final thing that I wrote down very quickly, because I forgot. You mentioned this in our one of our last sessions, the word modeling, and I forgot in what context you used it. But I thought it was such an amazing word, and it has to be amazing. You have to remind me again of what it was. I think also in the context of relationships and kind of finding who's actually right for you. If I remember this correctly? Do you remember what that meant when you said
Yeah,
modeling?
modeling is something else, but what you are talking about is more. I think that's my sentence, but I think the reason why we have relationship issues is a casting issue,
Mm-hmm.
because to change your personality it takes hard work. Let's say you want to change this passive aggressive defense mechanism. It takes realistically 2 years to change it, because we need to be stable. And to change your personality, you have to break yourself, you have to go to a transformation, a little crisis, you have to practice, and then you have to be in this beginning It's like, I'm going to teach you riding a bicycle. You know how hard it is to teach a grown-up riding a bicycle for the first time if you never tried it before? It's so hard. So in a way, therapy is like that. So if we wait to be better, to have a relationship, we are fucked. The language. So the world is eradicated because we cannot procreate, you know? So we need to know very well our coping mechanism, in these stages, how we are in a very honest way, and then find a partner that really match with us. If we have that, sexual attraction we cannot build. So this is also that we need to investigate, because there's chemistry, there's DNA compatibility, there's smell. The smell is very good to help you to find out if this person is good chemistry for you. So chemistry we cannot build. We need to find out someone that is really giving us a chemistry level. But the rest, we need to do a very good casting. But to do a good casting, you need to know what you are, what you need, not what you want, what you need.
Mm.
And then and you go to the world, and soon you find this person. You grab her and you build something with her until you get the love. Because the easiest thing we can do is love. We are so easy to love and to love back. Is the easiest thing is to love. The hardest thing is to make love possible to live in daily life. Because love is not enough to build a relationship. Most of the broken relationships is because in the daily life they start to see they have norms and values different, they see the world different, they feel different, they communicate different, and then they start to squeeze this love inside of each other. And then we have a game, or I destroy myself, or I destroy the partner, because you have to be different.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the best is really, you need to know what you are, and then you need to have a reference what kind of perfect person you need. And then of course you have items that you are open to be negotiating, and others they are not negotiable. So I really like to work with people when they are looking for someone. First they know themselves very well, and then they modeling this person. And of course, if you have the main norms and values matching, this is important. Very important, especially if you plan to have kids. Then if you have different norms and values, it's chaotic.
I think it's been one of the best exercises I've done with you, which is basically, it's like this ongoing thing that I have where I'm writing down like all the most random things about what I like about things in other people, what I don't like, what I like about myself, what I don't like. And I think not in a so obsessive way. Like, you know the movie with Ben Stiller, Along Came Polly?
I don't know.
Oh, you should watch it. So he's basically, I think, I don't know if he's an accountant, but he calculates the risk of every woman if you should date them or not. And
I think I remember.
So, and he doesn't eat like nuts at the bar because he's afraid he can because of the bacteria he can get sick and stuff. But I think in a healthier way, like once you are kind of more conscious, right? And I was doing it even while I was in a relationship, realizing certain things about myself, about the other person, what we talk about, like very basic stuff. That I cannot do the cuddling. I cannot sleep like that. Like I need my space, and like just random stuff. But like you say, that's your daily life, and it kind of compounds with time. And if that doesn't work somehow, then doesn't really have a future. Even if you think the other person is super hot, very attractive, but something's missing, and if it's too much, then it doesn't have a future.
It has to be a balance, and sometimes when we have crisis in relationships, these small differences, they look like huge, they make a huge thing. But of course, and this is funny, I think we are all a little bit narcissists, because when you see someone that you admire, or it looks like you are looking at yourself at the same time. So let's say you admire someone that is, let's say, I'm giving an example. When was the vaccines to the COVID? I didn't take my vaccine. I think was not enough time to do a vaccine. I got COVID. I was okay. So I didn't want to take it. And then my husband neither. So I look at him and I say, this was very hard for us to do that, but I admire he do the same things as I do. So it's like I admire things on myself. Therefore, when someone looks like me, I can keep this admiration. So if you find self-love, it looks like these books of coaching, when you love yourself, then you love the others. Because if you find someone that you can reproduce this admiration, it will be so much easy. And of course, there are some things your partner is completing you, but some things they are look like you, and this makes you feel so comfortable. And then you admire him, and the side effect is you admire you back. And then it's like you are praising each other. And I think it's the best intelligent thing we can do to have a relationship. But people will say, "Oh, this is too much rational." Okay, again, let's not do autistic style list like this movie, but let's not let love actually happens.
Like most of the
Sorry,
movies, most of the movies make you feel that, right? And then you wonder why you don't have that life, because it seems like the movie is telling you.
because it don't happens. The only way that happens is because it's familiar, and because it's familiar is repetition of trauma with your parents, because it looks like mommy and daddy, and that's not the good reference.
But
When
you
you
mean the
get
movie
this,
is repetition? The movies.
yeah, I don't know. The movie is
Pretty
fantasy.
Woman. We always talk about Pretty Woman, for
Ah,
example.
yeah, Pretty Woman. This is fantasy. I'm not saying there's a guy who decide to pick a prostitute as a woman, as a wife. It could happen, but it's very rare. It's very rare. Um, Actually, now on Netflix, there's a new movie that is Unconditional Love, and I like to see these movies because when I teach these relationships, I like to bring movies. But I think Hollywood was really breaking our perspective about relationships because it's so unrealistic. So people again go to, I will never have this, or I will have this. You see, it's unrealistic again.
Mhm.
I will not have love actually happens, like the movie, but I will not have the opposite. I will have something in the middle, you know? But
Just
people like to make love something that happens. I look in her eyes and something inside of me, and then we ask the person, why you like this person so much? And they say, I don't know, I just feel it. If it's like that, I'm sorry, this probably development trauma. When you don't have words why you like this person, probably you are guided from development trauma.
I was just looking at the movie. You've told me you've recommended me movies. I still haven't watched them, to be honest, because now it's the
Mhm.
winter time. But one movie you recommended to me is called the movie The Bridges of The Bridges of Madison County. That's one
Mhm.
that you recommended to me, and then you recommended to me Thelma and Louise, which I haven't watched
Mhm.
for a long
Yeah,
time, because they
yeah,
used to
yeah.
like it's a good way to see a woman that's romantic, but then kind of becomes more seductive with time.
Yes, yes. Thelma and Louise is a very good movie when you see this naiveness on the romantic woman, and she finished the movie more balanced.
Okay,
Um, yeah, but and the bridges of the Madison County is to balance also the role of the man and the woman in the relationship and the power of the choice,
right.
because love is a choice, and it don't happens. So it's a very, this movie has a lot of archetypes, is a deep movie, and it's funny because if you see this movie in a superficial level, is about betraying and not betraying and be happy love forever, happily forever, but it's not. The deep message of this movie is sometimes love the person is not the same to live with the person.
Mm. Oh yeah, I've been there.
And
um,
loving is really a choice. Sometimes you love so much this person, but you cannot live with this person and you have to make a choice, you know? It is I really love that movie. I saw so many times, but I cry always. But
I'll
I'm
watch
not
it.
crying. I'm not crying because it's sad. I'm crying because I think people don't know what is really love in the grown up level. You know, It's not codependency. It's admiration. Is really caring for the other. And sometimes you need to let go about yourself to love a person, and love is not enough. So it's a very, very nice movie about love is a choice. I really like it.
I think that's a perfect message to actually end this really, really amazing
Yes.
talk. I mean, I've thank you so much. I think there was so much there for
I think
people
so.
to.
Me
No,
too. I
honestly, this is
talk a
that we've
lot.
broke. Yeah. I hope I keep saying this to you. I hope you will write one day a book about it. For
Mhm.
people that want to reach you, want to contact you, if I don't know if you do have openings for now, what would
No,
be a
no,
way?
I don't have any openings for now.
Okay,
So,
but
yeah.
also even for training, also not.
Yes, for training, I have my website is somatic dot pt is Portugal,
Yeah.
but I'm also teaching in Bodynamic International,
Okay.
so I can give you also the two contacts.
Yeah, put
I
that in
really
the description, the show notes.
Yeah, we have a training in Portugal. We have the training in Portuguese. Actually, I'm start to have a lot of English speakers, students interested. But
Hmm.
in Germany, they have this school also. They have a lot of trainings in German that I highly recommend. That is Bodynamic Foundation, because you can see the stages of the child development, and you can see the trauma, and it's experiment half theoretical, so you can investigate your own traumas and you can learn about other people's traumas. So it's open to everyone, so you can learn about yourself and others. So it's useful for everything, for being a parent, to work with people, and they work a lot with some body exercise. So I think it's a very interesting training to do as an investment of a self-development step.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
I will
Well,
send some information about it.
yeah. No, definitely. And again, thank you so much. You stayed on. We stayed on a
Welcome.
lot longer than we had originally planned. I'm gonna make sure that we finish the recording with the upload for a second. If you could stay on for a moment. But
I can.
yeah, I'm gonna hit stop here. And again, thank you so much. This was exactly. It was much better than I thought it was gonna be, to be honest.
Oh,
And
I'm
I had
impressed.
high expectations.
Oh, thank you. I'm impressed how much I have things to tell. I don't know so much information I have in my head sometimes. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no,
It's
thank
once
you
you
for your
start doing.
invitation. Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, thank you. All
Thank
right,
you
let's hit
to
stop.
trust on my work and to invite me. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always.